She moved quietly through the clatter of plates and whispers of laughter, a shadow in her own workplace. To them, she was invisible, until the day power itself crumbled right in front of her. When her billionaire boss collapsed, the room froze, eyes darting, hands trembling. In that moment, the same people who mocked her silence suddenly watched as the one they underestimated became the only one who could save him. But what they didn't know, the secret behind her calm, would change everything they thought they knew about worth, respect, and who truly holds power. What happens when humility meets hypocrisy in plain sight? Every morning, Mara arrived before sunrise, the smell of brewing coffee already wrapping around her like a second skin. She'd been working at the Meridian, a luxury hotel restaurant where money whispered louder than kindness. Guests came and went, never seeing her beyond the white apron and polite smile. Her co-workers saw her too, just not as a person. They joked under their breath, testing the limits of cruelty, certain she wouldn't push back. But Mara carried something they didn't, a quiet strength shaped by years of swallowing words that burned in her throat. To her, survival meant grace in the face of contempt. She served their meals with practiced calm, every tray balanced like the dignity she refused to drop. That morning seemed no different. The laughter behind her felt routine. The billionaire at table 7 was known for his arrogance and charm, his companions for their lack of both. She moved through them all like a ghost, unnoticed, unacknowledged. But beneath her steady steps, the air was already shifting. Something was about to break the pattern. Within hours, the same room that ignored her would fall silent, and every eye would finally see Mara for who she truly was. Lunch rush always revealed people's truest selves. The moment the dining room filled with perfume, chatter, and polished laughter, masks slipped. That day, Mara noticed it faster than usual. The glance exchanged between two servers, the smirk curling in her direction as she passed. Someone whispered her name like a punchline. The laughter that followed was just loud enough for her to hear, just quiet enough to deny later. Still, she smiled, wiping down tables that didn't belong to her section. It wasn't new. When a guest accidentally snapped his fingers at her instead of speaking, the manager only shrugged. When another asked if she really worked here, his tone thick with disbelief, she swallowed her reply with the same precision she used to pour wine. Each moment carved a small, invisible scar that no one saw her carry. That afternoon, the world seemed determined to prove her place or erase it entirely. The billionaire at table 7, Mr. Layton, known for his generous tips and impossible demands, was hosting a circle of friends who treated his wealth like protection against decency. They called her, "Hey, sweetheart," sent her back twice for warmer plates, colder water, different napkins. Every request dripped with the same syrupy condescension, "Know your place." Behind their smiles, she saw the truth. They didn't see a woman serving lunch, they saw a servant of lesser worth. When she accidentally brushed his shoulder placing a glass, one of them muttered, "Careful, don't want to leave a mark." The table erupted in nervous laughter. Mara froze for a heartbeat, the shame and fury mixing like poison in her veins. Still, she smiled, wiping down tables that didn't belong to her section. Minutes stretched. Sweat gathered beneath the collar of her uniform. She thought about her mother's words. Dignity doesn't mean silence, it means knowing when to speak. But today her voice stayed buried beneath survival. Then a metallic clatter. A glass rolled from the table. A hand knocked it aside. Mr. Layton chuckled mid-sentence, then suddenly stopped. At first, no one noticed the shift, the color draining from his cheeks, the confused blink, the subtle clutch of his chest. Only Mara saw it. She spotted the tremor in his fingers before he did, the gloss of panic dimming his confident posture. The air thickened, conversation stumbling into fragments.
"Mara!" The manager's voice sliced through the noise. "Get another—" But the command ended mid-word. Mr. Layton's body lurched forward, silverware clattering to the ground, his chair tipping back. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then chaos. Guests screamed, servers froze, and the men at his table turned pale, shouting for help, but none of them knew what to do. In the swirl of panic, Mara stepped forward, the same woman they'd mocked, now moving with startling purpose. Somewhere between the gasps and confusion, one question filled the room like a cold wind. How could the person they refused to see become the only one who could save him?
The dining room blurred into motion, voices overlapping, footsteps clattering, the sharp edge of panic slicing through the air. Mr. Layton's face, once so full of arrogance and color, was now a terrifying shade of gray. His friends shouted for help, but their panic was useless. None of them knew what to do. Mara did. She'd learned first aid years ago, after watching her father collapse during a double shift when no one around him had acted fast enough. That memory flashed behind her eyes now as she knelt beside her collapsing boss. She turned him gently, checked his breathing, pressed against his sternum. "Call an ambulance," she ordered, her voice cutting through chaos like a siren. But no one moved. The men hesitated, their disbelief anchoring them in place. One muttered something, "Is she even trained?" and another tried to push her aside. For an instant, Mara felt that old humiliation return, heavy as lead. But not this time. She didn't flinch. She leaned closer, her palms steady against his chest, counting compressions while the room watched in silence. Time folded tight, 30 seconds, a lifetime. Sweat beaded at her temple. Each push became an act of defiance, every breath she gave him a quiet rebellion against everything they'd ever implied about her worth. When the paramedics burst through the door, they saw not a waitress, but a woman fighting to keep a man alive against every ounce of disbelief surrounding her. As they took over, the manager stammered praise, relief spilling too late. Mara rose slowly, her hands trembling, but her eyes calm. Around her, the crowd parted, and in their faces, she saw more than shock. She saw shame. The irony pulsed in the silence. The very woman mocked for her quiet had saved the man who embodied their power. But as they wheeled him out, one question hung heavier than the air itself. When the crisis passed, would they still see her worth, or would the world return to pretending she wasn't there?
The ambulance lights faded into the afternoon glare, leaving the restaurant in uneasy silence. Moments earlier, it had been filled with laughter and arrogance. Now it was thick with something else, guilt. The whispers that once mocked Mara had vanished. Every eye avoided hers, yet every glance carried the same unspoken question. How had we missed her? News spread quickly. The billionaire recovered. Statements were made, gratitude expressed publicly, her name mentioned on the company's social page like a convenient symbol of heroic staff. Behind closed doors, the same people who doubted her watched their words more carefully, their smiles stiff with forced respect. But Mara saw it for what it was, not change, just awareness. Real change, she knew, lived deeper than apologies. It lived in how people chose to see and treat others when no cameras were watching. She didn't want a medal. She wanted a world where quiet dignity didn't go unseen, where competence didn't need to prove itself against bias, where kindness was measured not by skin tone, but by humanity. Her act of courage had saved a life, but it had also exposed a sickness that couldn't be cured by gratitude alone. That night, as she walked home past the lights of the city that had always looked through her, she felt something like peace, but not forgetfulness. Every step was a reminder that survival was only the beginning of change. because for every Mara who rises in silence, there are countless others still unheard. And until seeing someone's worth doesn't require a crisis, stories like hers will keep repeating. So ask yourself, when the world's noise fades and someone stands quietly before you, will you truly see them or keep waiting until it's too late?